Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star episode number 489 based on novel. So let's start. The closest two out of the 450,000 sector beasts were at least over 10 million light years away from each other. They all ran away, completely separating. Even Luo Feng, who knew their locations due to the coordinates sent by Morosa, he couldn't do anything about it. Just run, thought Luo Feng. You're all too weak for me, yet there are too many of you. I can't deal with you, but when you've reached level 5, there won't be this many of you. There were only 900,000 sector beasts. The best case for the sector beasts was that around 100 level 5 sector beasts could be born. But in reality, some sector beasts ate more than others, so there might only be around 50 level 5 sector beasts born. All he needed to do was kill all the level 5 sector beasts, which was very difficult. But he had to try. Just after Luo Feng forced Chi Ya to self-destruct, he started to chase another sector beast by teleporting. Out of the 450,000 sector beasts that were fighting each other in the region of the First Universe era, the top 3 sector beasts were Chi Ya, Meng Chu, and Angsai. Chi Ya, Morosa, and Betty were already at the pinnacle level before, so every one of them was excellent, thought Luo Feng. This Meng Chu might become quite powerful in this special situation, but his willpower might be weaker than Chi Ya and Morosa. There's a chance I can enslave it. He flew toward Meng Chu. When Chi Ya was attacked, and all the other sector beasts, including Meng Chu, got the message, they all fled in different directions. This made it more difficult for Luo Feng to hunt them down. The space was clotted. No. Sector beast Meng Chu, who had been flying, was stunned. It turned both of its heads into the distance. A silver-armored and silver-winged man showed up in the space in the distance. It was the individual the sector beasts feared the most, Milky Way Horde Leader. Milky Way Horde Leader in the distance gave a look. Then the vast space around him was immediately trapped in a miniature universe, and a powerful binding force arrived. Luo Feng teleported and approached it. Inside the miniature universe he had formed with only one thought, he could clot the space around his enemy. Luo Feng could teleport close to it. Destruction. Sector beast Meng Chu raged, and the bloody engraving picture behind it soon formed a sector beast made of light. They both raged, and a gleaming, spinning whirlpool portal raced toward Luo Feng. Meanwhile, Luo Feng also waved the blood shadow blade in his hands. An equally gleaming white-gold blade of light rushed forward. The arc of light and the whirlpool portal hit each other. The whirlpool portal crumbled first, and the curved blade of light slashed it before it crumbled. At the same time, a drop of water silently penetrated the body of sector beast Meng Chu in the wake of the shock waves. Enslaving technique, 3-star sector. It was the supreme enslaving technique created by a supreme being known as Gold from Jin country, and it was also the most powerful enslaving technique from the world of Jin. Luo Feng observed sector beast Meng Chu with great expectations. He sincerely wished to be able to successfully enslave it this time. Meng Chu stood still in space. The shock waves around it had already been weakened, and the space had already recovered. Luo Feng sensed the soul of Meng Chu, and he could tell that Meng Chu's soul was already under his control. This provoked a smile from Luo Feng's face. Wake up, Meng Chu. Both the singular eyes of Meng Chu glinted. I am the king, said sector beast Meng Chu in a daze. It looked at Luo Feng in front of it, and then it gained complete consciousness. It then said with respect, Master. Okay. Luo Feng nodded. I'll go hunt down Angsai. You go kill the sector beasts closest to you. Yes, Master, said sector beast Meng Chu respectfully. Luo Feng and sector beast Meng Chu kept teleporting in different directions. It was impossible for Luo Feng to take Meng Chu with him. If he did, other sector beasts would see him coming. That would make it very difficult for him to hunt those sector beasts down. However, if Meng Chu acted on its own, the fleeing sector beasts might panic and change direction. Meng Chu was enslaved. Meng Chu was enslaved. It turned to Milky Way Horde leader just as Morosa did. All the fleeing sector beasts sensed it. They could still clearly sense the presence of Morosa and Meng Chu, but apparently, they were now on the opposite team. Beware of the enslaving technique of Milky Way Horde leader. Be careful not to be enslaved by him. Luo Feng found out the truth when fighting the last of the three great beings, Ang Sai. It blew itself up just as he created his miniature universe. It self-destructed without even putting up a fight. The shock wave spread and hit the body of Luo Feng. His wings were trembling, but he frowned. I just successfully enslaved Meng Chu, and the sector beasts are so insane now. They self-destruct as soon as I catch up to them? The sector beasts were left with no choice. Betty, Chi Ya, and Meng Chu were all level 5 sector beasts, yet none of them could survive against Luo Feng in a fight. They understood that no matter how hard they tried, they would be killed by Luo Feng anyway, so they would rather self-destruct than risk being enslaved by Luo Feng, which would make him stronger. Inside the miniature universe of Luo Feng, inside the spaceship, Morosa was controlling the enormous model. Unsettled, it said, "Master, you have 9 slaves now, but I am the weakest one." Luo Feng took a look at Morosa. It was true. In the past 8 days, Luo Feng had killed Chi Ya and enslaved Meng Chu, forcing Ang Sai to self-destruct. Luo Feng had then gone after another level 5 sector beast, but that one had also exploded. Luo Feng had then understood that he himself wasn't enough to enslave those sector beasts, so he started acting together with Meng Chu. With Meng Chu, he had located a target and teleported there immediately. Though the sector beast had known that Meng Chu was chasing it as well, Luo Feng and Meng Chu were still approaching them. The teleportation distance of Luo Feng was too far, farther than level 5 sector beasts. When Meng Chu met the enemy, the two sector beasts began fighting each other, and their sectors were sensing one another, so it was impossible for them to self-destruct. When the sector beasts were fighting each other in the hive of sector beasts, nobody self-destructed no matter how serious the grudges were, as it was impossible to self-destruct during a sector beast fight. During the battle, Luo Feng had performed his enslaving technique to enslave that sector beast. Time flew by. Luo Feng continued to use that technique, even using different slaves to act at the same time, forcing other sector beasts to flee awkwardly. Using this method, he had successfully enslaved 8 sector beasts in total. This time, I've enslaved 8 sector beasts. Luo Feng looked at Morosa. 5 of them are level 5 sector beasts, and 3 of them are level 4 sector beasts. As for you, you're a level 2 sector beast. However, I made you a promise before. As long as you helped me with all your energies, I would get many sector beasts for you to eat. Only one of the sector beasts I have enslaved can live, and it will be you. Morosa was exhilarated. Luo Feng was calm. When a level 2 sector beast ate a level 5 sector beast, it could jump straight to a level 5 sector beast. They were all his slaves, so with one thought, they wouldn't be able to blow themselves up. That means only one of them can live, Luo Feng thought. As for sector beasts, if I really can't stop a level 6 sector beast from being born, then I'll make a level 6 sector beast for myself. Luo Feng didn't have any other options, and this was the reason why he enslaved the sector beasts. Now, out of all the sector beasts he had enslaved, there were 5 level 5 sector beasts in total. Meng Chu was the most evolved one out of all of them. However, that still wasn't enough for a level 6 sector beast to be born. Look, Master. Morosa pointed at that giant model of Universe Ocean. The sector beasts from the first Universe era have entered Lost Ocean Domain. You can go to Lost Ocean Domain as well, Master. But now, the 450,000 sector beasts surrounding your miniature universe have also entered Lost Ocean Domain, and only 30,000 sector beasts are still in the normal ocean domain in Universe Ocean. It'll be very difficult for you to hunt them down. Luo Feng frowned and considered. It was true. Lost Ocean Domain was an area that no races from Universe Ocean had ever comprehended. Once someone was trapped in there, he would be lost in the depths of Universe Ocean without any reference points. They would never be able to find their way back. However, the sector beasts had all rushed into Lost Ocean Domain, one after another. Only 30,000 sector beasts were left, Luo Feng rushed into Lost Ocean Domain as well. He dared to rush in because Luo Feng was bringing Meng Chu with him. That meant that even if he was trapped in Lost Ocean Domain, Meng Chu could still sense the location of Morosa. They could return by following that sensation. It was the same reason why the sector beasts had dared to venture into Lost Ocean Domain. We're in trouble now, thought Luo Feng. Lost Ocean Domain is enormous, yet the sector beasts are running in all directions. If I'm trying to catch one sector beast, I'll be getting farther away from another sector beast. After enslaving 8 sector beasts, Luo Feng now felt helpless. He had to bring one sector beast with him when journeying into Lost Ocean Domain. The fleeing sector beasts would get as far away from him as possible. Some would get away through natural wormholes. Luo Feng couldn't follow sector beasts precisely in Lost Ocean Domain, and the only thing he could be sure of was the location. He moved in a straight line. When sector beasts fled through natural wormholes, Luo Feng was left dazed. He couldn't even find the wormholes. Time passed. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Other than Morosa, Luo Feng had enslaved 8 sector beasts and killed a large group of sector beasts. He then acquiesced and decided to go back. But just when he was about to return, Luo Feng understood that the level 6 sector beasts would soon be born. Luo Feng's original body was making its way back at that moment within his miniature universe. Master, Morosa reported respectfully. There are many sector beasts escaping into the Lost Ocean Domain of Universe Ocean. Out of the 450,000 sector beasts from the second batch, 420,000 have escaped into the Lost Ocean Domain. Adding to this number are those sector beasts from the first batch Master went after. The number of sector beasts that Master has killed and enslaved is a far cry from half the number of the first batch of sector beasts. If all the sector beasts who have escaped into the Lost Ocean Domain started fighting one another, their numbers alone could give rise to 2 6th-stage sector beasts. Luo Feng nodded. 900,000 sector beasts could probably give rise to the birth of 3 6th-stage sector beasts. The number of sector beasts he had killed and enslaved merely constituted a small portion. Judging by the remaining ones, it was entirely possible for the birth of 2 6th-stage sector beasts. However, according to the sector beast's iron rule of fate, 2 6th-stage sector beasts have to kill one another, Morosa said. Only one can remain standing. The iron rule of fate was a set of shackles imposed upon the process of giving birth to the final king of the entire sector beast race. To hasten the birth of the final king, there were 4 iron rules. The first iron rule was that no 2 6th-stage sector beasts were allowed to coexist. They were required to fight one another to death. All their divided bodies also would have to fight each other until there was only one left standing. The second iron rule was that the final king had to be born during the gestation period. Maximizing the time stipulated by the breeding process, even if they were forced to fight and kill one another, the devouring had to continue to the very last minute of their time limit until there was only one left standing. The third iron rule, if there were only 2 sector beasts left, regardless of how powerful or powerless they were, they had to fight one another until there was only one left standing. The fourth iron rule, the final surviving sector beast, regardless of being a 1st stage or a 6th stage sector beast, would become the ultimate king. Luo Feng's brows were furrowed as he thought. The number of sector beasts was too many. Hundreds of thousands of sector beasts in the Lost Ocean Domain, probing in different regions, meant there had to be a large number of reference points where these hundreds of thousands of sector beasts had gone. Altogether, the sector beasts would have obtained substantial information of a region of the map of Lost Ocean Domain. This would allow the sector beasts to be able to speedily escape through the natural wormholes time and again. But there was no way Luo Feng could give chase because he did not have the benefit of a map. The moment this new ocean map was defined, Luo Feng was unable to give chase no matter how he tried. He was forced to retreat. 30,000 sector beasts have stayed behind, Morosa reported respectfully. They did not go to the Lost Ocean Domain. They are all separated from one another, scattered all over the 3 most dangerous lands. The environment of the 3 most dangerous lands is severe. Catching even one of these sector beasts is going to be very difficult. Luo Feng understood. The 30,000 sector beasts that remained behind were represented a beacon of hope for their race. For those sector beasts that had escaped into Lost Ocean Domain, although they would have managed to piece together a partial map of the region, they had fled too far. There was no way they could rely on their own abilities to return. In the future, when a 6th stage sector beast is born, Morosa said, by sensing the whereabouts of some of the sector beasts who have stayed behind, it could kill its way into our universe ocean. They might have been worried that Master would kill all the remaining sector beasts, including those of us who have pledged allegiance to you, Master. Killing us all would cause them to lose their points of reference and be lost for eternity. They would not be able to return. Accordingly, the number of sector beasts they left behind was many, 30,000. There is no way Master can kill them all in a short time. How cruel. But Luo Feng had to do his best. When his original body returned, the first thing to do was to head to Tilted Peak Sector. Within Tilted Peak Sector, the land was vast and divided into many special regions. Presently, those sector beasts were simply heading for any of these special regions they chanced upon. There were even some sector beasts that escaped directly into some of the most dangerous lands. Upon entering such dangerous lands, getting out again would be challenging. Apprehend. Catch them. Catch them. The 30,000 sector beasts that had remained behind to play the role of the beacon of hope were all second-stage sector beasts. They were not considered powerful. Before Luo Feng, they did not even have the ability to self-destruct. Therefore, they could all be forcibly caught and confined within Star Tower by Luo Feng. Then, Meng Chu would devour them all. Luo Feng was no longer enslaving them because there was also a limit to the number of soul slaves he could own. Loathsome. Within Star Tower, silver-armored Luo Feng was looking far ahead. Deep within the endless darkness was a huge abyss. This was the well-known Dark Yong domain that was at the core ground of Tilted Peak Sector. To think you would go so far as to escape into Dark Yong domain, Luo Feng muttered. The moment you step into Dark Yong domain, there is no way you can get out. Yet, as many as 102 sector beasts are hiding in there. Would Luo Feng dare to enter? Of course not. Just a while ago, he had tried getting a godly-powered avatar to control an automaton-type battleship and drive its way in, but after entering, there was no way it could come out. These sector beasts have given no thought of coming out again. Luo Feng shook his head. There were many dangerous lands similar to the 3 most dangerous lands. Once someone entered, escape would be impossible. At that moment, a substantial number of sector beasts were making their way into these places. With the methods Luo Feng had, there were some dangerous lands he could still manage to escape from, but there were also those that he would not be able to escape from. Luo Feng did not dare to personally survey the situation, so he had to send his godly-powered avatar to conduct the investigation. The previous 2 times, the godly-powered avatar had controlled the automaton-type battleship and charged its way out. But this time, upon entering Dark Yong domain, no matter how it tried, it would be unable to get out. 30,000 sector beasts. It is impossible to kill them all. Luo Feng sighed. Then, controlling Star Tower, he left. In the faraway Lost Ocean domain, where Universe Ocean was simply much too vast, a few 100,000 sector beasts were exploring, yet all they had managed to find out, collectively, merely constituted a small part of the entire domain. Now, the few 100,000 sector beasts were gathered in this ocean domain. Though relatively small, the area of the ocean domain that the sector beasts had managed to learn about was much more than 10 times that of what Luo Feng and the 3 reincarnation eras had managed to learn about the same domain. Kill. Between you and I, only one can survive. 2 hideous-looking sector beasts were fighting one another without inhibitions. Blood splattered everywhere. It was simply crazy, and such killing was taking place in different void spaces. Several 100,000 sector beasts were killing and evolving simultaneously. They were hanging on to everything they got as they evolved. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, nearly a year had gone by. Within the Lost Ocean domain, only 2 sector beasts remained. They were equally impressive, and they were both 6th stage sector beasts. A powerful, oppressive force caused the entire void space to vibrate. Both sector beasts stood far apart from one another in the void space as they faced one another. One of the sector beasts gripped an axe. Both their bodies were covered with complex, blood-colored engravings. At the same time, a single horn grew on each of their foreheads. The tips of these horns flashed with white light. This white light seemed to annihilate everything. The two sector beasts had slightly different auras. One was eerie, while the other was more violent. They were Mo and you. Mo, we have both crossed over to the 6th stage. It is destined that only one of us can survive. You are dead for sure. Let me be the one to finish off this Milky Way Horde leader to become the ultimate king. The two 6th stage sector beasts were engaged in a life-and-death battle within that faraway lost ocean domain. You have been annihilated. Mo had become the final surviving 6th stage sector beast. After devouring you, Mo's power had rapidly climbed up to reach the top level of the 6th stage. Then, right away, it made its way back. Milky Way Horde leader. My noble sector beast race is the rightful owner for the final victory. Mo was advancing through the void space with a godly axe in his hand. By relying on the ability to sense his fellow sector beasts' whereabouts, it would never get lost. The few thousand sector beasts scattered all over the 3 dangerous lands, who had yet to be apprehended and hacked to death by Luo Feng, were all extremely excited. Finally, a 6th stage sector beast had arrived. After about a month, Mo finally stepped into the familiar ocean domain again. I am here. Standing amidst the vast void space, the single horns on Mo's 2 heads were curved as they stabbed in the direction of the void space up ahead. The white lights at the tips were faint. Both the single eyes on its 2 heads flashed with madness. Mo, said a 2nd stage sector beast hidden in a mountain range, we shall leave everything to you. The hidden 2nd stage sector beast self-destructed. Mo, I trust you, said another sector beast hiding inside the universe boat, who also self-destructed. The last glory of our sector beast race. You need to protect it. Kill that Milky Way Horde leader. We of the sector beast race should be the ones of highest nobility. One after the other, sector beasts were self-destructing. They were sector beasts that Luo Feng either had not had time to hunt and kill, or those who had hidden in some of the most dangerous lands, so Luo Feng had been unable to hunt and kill them. One by one, they were self-destructing in succession. All were annihilated. There was only one sector beast left who was truly free of enslavement, Mo. Mo. I will protect the last remnant of the glory of my noble sector beast race. I will not allow that Milky Way Horde leader to tarnish our race. Roar. Mo raised both his heads and roared in anger. At this moment, an invisible fate was enshrouding it. It was the one and only sector beast free of slavery. Luo Feng was still in shock upon witnessing the repeated self-destruction and disappearance of the sector beasts. Morosa's expression suddenly registered a drastic change. Master! 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 Morosa and the few other enslaved sector beasts, like Meng Chu, who were together with it at the 3 most dangerous lands, simultaneously transmitted their messages to Luo Feng in shaky voices. What is it? Luo Feng sensed that something was amiss. Why would the 9 great sector beasts he had enslaved report to him all at the same time? Master! Morosa shouted in shock. When the sector beasts who were scattered all over self-destructed at the same time, we felt the fate. The fate? Luo Feng was taken aback. The sector beast race was greatly controlled by the influence of fate, as outlined by the 4 iron rules of fate. Only one surviving sector beast is free of enslavement, Morosa continued. Fate is telling us that even we, the subservient sector beasts who pledged our allegiance to you, have to fight and kill among ourselves. There must be a final surviving sector beast out of us all. Then this sector beast will go to battle against the free sector beast, to give rise to the ultimate king. This is the 5th iron rule of fate, an iron rule that has just fallen upon us. What? A 5th iron rule? Luo Feng's expression changed drastically. A free sector beast? Against an enslaved sector beast? They were actually expected to fight a final battle. Luo Feng recalled the moment when he had enslaved Morosa. At the time, he had received a warning from the Supreme Law. The sector beasts were a supreme life form that represented destruction. Apparently, attempting to enslave them was difficult in the first place. Now, there was only one surviving sector beast that was free of enslavement, and unexpectedly, a fifth iron rule was laid down to hasten the birth of a final king. Obviously, this was to deprive Luo Feng of any chance of preparation. I have many sector beasts as slaves under my command. By observing them execute destruction, then thoroughly comprehending it, I will be able to ascend to a higher state. So long as I have more time, my power will get stronger. Through this calamity, my chances are higher, too. But now, the Supreme Law is no longer giving me time. Luo Feng's expression appeared solemn. When his opponent reached the level of 6th stage as the top, there would be no higher rank to rise to. Yet he could still gradually rise further if he continued with cultivation. However, now that the 5th iron rule of fate had descended, the ultimate king had to be born. The final battle. Is this it? Luo Feng's eyes flashed with a complex brilliance. Then bring it on. Luo Feng took control of Star Tower and started to head back to the primal universe. Those sector beasts under his command, unfortunately, would not be able to give rise to the birth of a 6th-tier sector beast. When it came to making a final decision between the sector beasts free of enslavement and the enslaved ones, of course he would choose to strike. If his side won, that would naturally be the perfect outcome. If that sector beast, Mo, truly became the ultimate king, that would be a true disaster. Everything Luo Feng sought to protect would be annihilated. On the eve of this battle, Luo Feng could not help but feel a strong urge to see his own family. Luo Feng went back to the original universe and back to Milky Way Holy Land. The final fight was coming, and based on the deadline described by Morosa, Luo Feng knew that he didn't have much time left. He didn't have any other thoughts but meeting with his family. Luo Feng landed in a hallway made of green stones. It was a simple courtyard, and in front of the courtyard stood a white-caped woman. Luo Feng smiled at her. She was his wife, Xu Xin. Xu Xin, who had always supported him without any complaints. She didn't crave him, and she didn't ask him to give her more time. Was it because she didn't like him? When Luo Feng had tried to fight the swallowing beast to death, and everyone had thought he had died, including Xu Xin, she had chosen to die with him after giving birth to his child. Love wasn't supposed to be a restraint. Instead, it was supposed to be constant care and support. Feng. Xu Xin smiled, and her smile was like a moon in the sky, calming Luo Feng's soul. Luo Feng's wife was the harbor of his heart. He reached out and held her hand. Let's go see Mom and Dad. Okay, said Xu Xin. She didn't ask any further questions. She'd been waiting here for a long time, and their parents lived in this courtyard. They entered the courtyard. Soon, they saw Luo Hongguo and Gongxin Lan, who sat there talking. After a trillion eras, they still looked the same as before. Ah, Feng. Luo Hongguo and Gongxin Lan both stood up. Mom, Dad, yelled Luo Feng. When he saw his parents, he was still like that same hard-working student in the dojo during the era of Headquarter City on Earth. Luo Hongguo and Gongxin Lan gave each other a look. They both felt that something was wrong with Luo Feng. He already stood among the pinnacle of billions of races, and he was steady and reliable when hanging out with his parents. However, Luo Feng was acting like a child who was deeply attached to his parents. It was unusual. They both noted this, but neither of them said anything about it. Come and sit, Xu Xin. Gongxin Lan held her son's hands. They sat down, and so did Xu Xin. Luo Feng was talking with his parents and wife like an ordinary human being, and soon, his two sons, Luo Ping and Luo Hai, and his brother, Luo Hua, also arrived. The family gathered together, talking and laughing. However, they had all lived for a long time, so they all sensed something wrong with Luo Feng this time. It all seemed so normal, which was exactly why it was so abnormal. It was an unusual time. They were facing the sector beasts right now, and Luo Feng carried all the responsibilities. How did he have the time and energy to talk with his family? However, nobody said anything, even after talking for a long time. In fact, Luo Hongguo, Gongxin Lan, Luo Ping, and Luo Hai spoke the most. "It's time," said Luo Feng. Everyone went quiet. Luo Feng looked around. He looked at his mom and dad, who had always cared for him. At the brother who had grown up with him. At the two sons who idolized him. And at his wife who had been supporting him this whole time. "I think you all know now." Luo Feng nodded. "Something major is happening, and I've been keeping it from you. But now, it's time to tell you." He had gone to the hive of the sector beasts for slaughter, and he had fought 900,000 sector beasts, yet he hadn't shared this information with his family. Even though they knew about the sector beast crisis, they didn't know any of the details. However, if he failed this time, all the races of Universe Ocean would be annihilated, including him. There was no longer any need to shield them from anything. "What's happening, brother?" asked Luo Hua. "Dad? Dad?" Luo Ping and Luo Hai were looking at Luo Feng anxiously. His parents and his wife also looked at him, worried. "This is the final act of the sector beast crisis," said Luo Feng. "There can only be two results of this battle. If I win, all the races, including us humans, will be safe and sound. But if I lose, all the races will be annihilated, and the humans will die out as well. The original universe will be destroyed, and so will I. No one can survive it. This will be the final battle." His parents, his wife, his sons, and his brother were all shocked. This had to do with all the billions of races in Universe Ocean? "I'm about to leave," whispered Luo Feng. "I wanted to see you, my parents, and the rest of you, at the last moment before I left." Luo Feng looked around at his family members. They were all his family. "A Feng." Luo Hongguo put his hands on his son's shoulders, embracing him, and he smiled. "Actually, I'm very proud of you. I remember when I was young, when the Nirvana came, and we barely survived it. We've survived life and death situations so many times that we could finally live in Headquarter City, giving birth to you and Ahua." Gongxin Lan also embraced her son. "Your mom and I are very proud. We never expected that we would be able to tour the universe. We never expected that we would experience so many virtual games as if they were real life. Others only have one lifetime, but we've had countless lifetimes already. Our lives are fantastic. And it's because of you." Both Luo Hongguo and Gongxin Lan looked at their son. "Don't feel burdened. Our Chinese saying goes, 100 years of life, but we've lived for countless hundreds of years. Even if we die, we'll smile as we die." Luo Hongguo smiled. "Just go, and don't feel pressured. Just go and fight them. If you win, we'll have endless glory, but if you lose, we'll die with you." Luo Feng's eyes were wet. He didn't feel any pain. Instead, it was endless joy. Luo Feng looked at his family members, who weren't worried at all. "Actually, I'm really selfish," he said. "I don't have much time to be with Xuxin, with my sons, and with my parents. I spent most of my time adventuring through the universe. I've been venturing and fighting. Even though I'm doing this for the survival of the Earthlings, I've actually become accustomed to the life of adventure and combat. I like adventuring, and I love seeing all the mysteries of the universe. I love fighting, and I get excited by dancing between life and death. Without those, my life would be simple and boring." Luo Feng shook his head. "Although it's a blessing to live a simple life, I've become used to fighting. I'm used to this life." Luo Feng looked at all his family. "My life shines because of fighting. And without fighting, it would be boring. However, you guys." He looked at his parents, holding the hands of his wife, and he looked at his sons and his brother. "You're the greatest treasure of my life in this world. You are my everything. You're more important than my own life. Without you, my world would be in darkness forever." Family was most important of all, more important than his own life. He would do everything to protect his family. Without them, he would be trapped in darkness forever. My life is splendid because of battle, but it is bright because of you. Luo Feng looked at his family members. He let go of his parents and stood up. Time for me go to. The ultimate fight was related to the survival of all the races of Universe Ocean. Luo Feng wouldn't hide anything. Instead, all the true gods knew about it. True gods from all the races, and even lots of universe masters, had gathered in front of the palace on the square in Milky Way Holy Land. Luo Feng walked out with his family, and all the races looked at him. Milky Way Horde Leader. Milky Way, we count on you now. Milky Way. All the races knew that this was the moment. Luo Feng walked around, passing all the true gods. He saw his teachers, Primal Chaos City Leader, Sitting Mountain Guest, and True Yang. He also saw his friends, Hong, Thunder God, Rong Jun, Wu Ka, Hu Yang Bo, and Barbata. Many great beings of the Earthlings, even his brother Wei Wen, were there. Great beings from the remote ocean, the races created by Luo Feng, were there, as well as his disciples. Teacher? A Feng. Milky Way. Luo Feng. They all called out to him. Luo Feng remained the longest in front of his teachers. Primal Chaos City Leader nodded, saying, "You have never let me down." Sitting Mountain Guest smiled. "I've devoted endless energies to cultivating you, and you turned out even better than I thought. However, you haven't paid me back yet, so don't be defeated by the Sector Beasts. You must win this time." True Yang tapped on Luo Feng's shoulders. "You'll always be my best disciple." Luo Feng walked to the front. He turned around and looked at all the great beings standing in the square. There were true gods of the demon race and the bug race who he had fought before, as well as some subsidiary races who had followed his orders. Some of them were his friends, people he cared about. Everything. At this moment, Luo Feng felt the full weight of all he had to defend. "I won't allow it," thought Luo Feng. "I won't allow anything that I'm protecting to be destroyed. I'll protect everything with my life. I won't allow it. I won't allow it to be destroyed." The great beings from all the races looked at Luo Feng. He looked back at them and smiled. "I will return," he said. Luo Feng flew away like a streak of light. If he did come back, it would mean he had succeeded. If he didn't make it back, all would be lost. The great beings of this universe era would only be remains in the three lands of extremis. Luo Feng was full of strengths, including the strength of his heart. Because of his family, his teachers, and his friends. He needed to defend them all. It was all so beautiful, and he wouldn't allow it to be destroyed. He was willing to sacrifice everything to protect that. A ferocious sector beast burst out of the universe membrane and flew toward the area where a silver-armored and silver-winged man stood. "Master," said Morosa respectfully. Luo Feng glanced at Morosa, who had already entered limit level 5. Normally, when attaining level 3, then level 4, and then level 5, each level would require time to process. However, under the influence of the supreme laws, Morosa had improved without facing any obstacles. And now, only one enslaved sector beast was still alive. There was also only one free sector beast who was still alive. "Master, Mohi is coming here," Sector Beast Morosa said anxiously. "Mohi is very fast. Its teleportation distance is clearly much greater than me. Are you sure you can win this fight, Master?" Morosa wasn't guaranteed to win anything. "I will win this fight," whispered Luo Feng. "I have to." His voice was firm. He had to win this fight. He had to protect everything he was responsible for defending. "Go." Luo Feng took Morosa and teleported. They disappeared and charged toward Sector Beast Mohi. This video will end here.